Loud and Quiet presents Midnight Chats.
I want to start this episode of the podcast with an apology, but mostly I want to start with some thank yous. First off, sorry we've been away. It's been about 6 weeks since our last episode of Midnight Chats, episode 31 with Lucy Rose. There was never a plan to take a summer break, but unfortunately at the end of July our office in London was burgled and all of our equipment was taken, and that included the kit we used to make this series and 2 unpublished chats we'd already recorded. One that I'd had with the legendary Tom Morello, which took place the morning after the UK general election, and another that Stuart had done with Adam from the War on Drugs. Unfortunately, those conversations won't get heard now, which is a shame, but hey, maybe we'll get those guests back on one day. As I said, I also need to say a few thank yous as well. We're a small independent team, so the last month hasn't been the easiest, but the people who got in touch afterwards to offer temporary working space or help or sent us some whiskey or just ask if we were all right. Cheers to you guys, it was much appreciated. And also thank you to Zoom, who kindly sent us a new recorder so that you can hear this now. This feels like a good opportunity then, as we come back, to remind you what we're all about and what we do, or if you're listening for the first time, to introduce you to Midnight Chats. It's a podcast series made by us at Loud and Quiet. Some episodes are hosted by me, Greg, and others by Stuart. And we aim to have conversations with artists, people of interest that have a late night feel. The kind of thing that maybe hopefully goes a bit deeper, maybe is a little bit different from what you normally hear from those musicians. So after our recent unplanned pause, we start again now. A new episode will be published every fortnight at midnight on a Thursday, and you can listen, subscribe, rate and review us on all the major podcast platforms. Plus, we stick these on YouTube and Facebook as well. In exactly 1 week from now, the winner of this year's Mercury Prize will be announced. Just less than 2 years ago, that was Benjamin Clementine picking up the award, inviting the 11 other nominees on stage that night to pick up the award with him, and he was dedicating it to the victims of the recent Paris terror attacks at that time. It was a poignant moment, and the night itself wasn't just the breakthrough moment for his music, but also the springboard for his extraordinary story to start being told more widely. Benjamin grew up in Edmonton, North London. He left home when he was 16 and spent a couple of years living in Camden before leaving London for Paris. He was often sleeping rough there on the streets. He was busking, though, at the same time on the metro and on the boulevards. And that's where he was spotted, an experience which eventually led him on to record his debut album, At Least for Now, and eventually onto winning that distinguished award, which, incidentally, he's managed to break. As he says in this chat, the morning after winning the Mercury, he went back to Paris, to the cheap hostel room where he was staying, and thought about how surreal the whole thing was. But 2 years on, in the middle of September now, he'll release his second album. It's called I Tell a Fly, and there's a bit in this chat about the album, but not a lot. Mostly it's conversation about his roots in Edmonton, why it was so hard going back there a few years ago to try and live there, why the £25,000 he got given for winning the Mercury Prize is still sat in a bank account, and also his impression of America and Americans after he spent the majority of last year there writing and recording his new album. Just finally, I should add that Benjamin speaks in a quite hushed, unhurried way, so you may want to turn this up a touch to get the full effect of our conversation. So, here it is, the return of Midnight Chats. This is episode 32 with Benjamin Clementine. summer looked like for you?
Yeah, I've been finishing an album and also playing some festivals across Europe. My last one is in a few days in Portugal, and I can't wait to go and perform for them, and then go back and rest a little bit before it all starts again in September.
How do you find that transition between being in the writing, recording place and then being out on stage? Because I know for some artists their preference is to be in one zone at a time, if you like. So if you're trying to finish things off, record things and play shows at the same time, it can be a distraction. But how do you find it?
I see it as part of what what defines me. Going into the studio and recording is the same as going on the stage and performing. Obviously, they're both different things. Making a studio album is different from making even a live album. But I think it's a bit like being what's called with other occupations, like a doctor or whatever it is. You go to different places every time, and you're going to have to give your best at everything. So I wake up every day to do what I love doing, which is being an artist.
When you're off the road, so to speak, where do you consider yourself based now? Are you living in London?
Well, I am. I'd say that I pay my taxes in London, so I suppose I'm living here. Yeah. I mean, I like coming back to London every time I'm not working, or I'm not writing, or and in fact I don't really like hanging around in London. I like to go outside London. It's much more peaceful.
Where do you take yourself? Do you go to the coast? Do you head into the countryside? Where do you go?
Well, these days my girlfriend, she's got a nice house in there. What's called Wokenham.
Okay.
So we go there, as much as possible to relax and get out of the what's called the tantrums and shenanigans of the city.
And the increasingly polluted air, it feels.
It certainly is. As soon as you leave London, you realise how dreadful it is to live in such a metropolis.
What are the things that you still love about London, though? Like, having grown up here, I don't know whether you consider yourself still a Londoner, having moved around to different places, but yeah, what are the things you still love about the city? Is that a short list?
I'm actually I'm glad that I know. In fact, leaving London made me know London more. Because when you're living in the city and you haven't really travelled around other cities, you don't realise what you have or what you don't have. For me, I like the openness of London. So if you want to go somewhere, you're going to have to really go there, because it takes a long time to go there. I also like the so-called multicultural aspect of the city. Whether it's an advantage, I have no idea, but I do appreciate it. That's what I like about London. I think I like South London more, because it is very quiet compared to Central and North London. That's my experiences, I'm from North London, but I think I prefer South London more. But overall, it's nice to see a whole bunch of people from looking different everywhere around the world coming to the city to somehow fulfill their dreams. So, it's a bit like, I'm sounding a bit like American now. The so-called the American dream. It might be a great British dream, but you might have to ask what's his name, Nigel Farage, if I'm right or wrong.
You're from Edmonton, so north of London. North London. You've already mentioned. Do you find yourself back in that neighbourhood very often?
No. I'll be honest with you, it's a shithole. And
I can agree with you on that because I live relatively close to there.
it's a shithole. I would like to hopefully, I have so many dreams, and when I'm done with this music, I would want to. It would be a lie to say that I can do it at the same time. The amount of times I'm travelling, it's very hard to, even have time for my own lady. How much more a whole village or a whole city, city in a city. I think that it's such a, I wouldn't say it's a poor area, because there's two parts of Edmonton. There's Angel Edmonton, and then there's Edmonton Green. Edmonton Green is a poor side, and Angel Edmonton is a not so poor side. And we lived in Angel Edmonton, so there was less crime. But we were always warned to never walk around Edmonton Green. Going back there, nothing has really changed. It's still the look I get when I go to Edmonton. Edmonton is just that I've grown out of it. I tried to live there. I went back there to live in Edmonton for a couple of months when I was recording my first album, and I just couldn't live there. I couldn't live there. And I was very sad because here I was, the man who I'm always faithful to. I stay true to my word, and I tried to stay true to my word. All the people I'm working with, I've been working with them for 4 years now, and there's no way I'm going to stop working with them. So going back to Edmonton, where my mother lives there, but I didn't want to live with her. I wanted to get my own place. And it was a very sad sight, and one that I don't think I would ever want to experience ever again.
What made you sadder? Was it the flood of kind of memories of the place that came back to you when you moved back there, possibly some negative experiences, or was it more that the place hadn't changed and you felt like maybe it would have moved on in that time?
Well, it's both. Mixed feelings, of course. So is trauma. I'll walk on the street, and whenever I see kids, I'll just, start thinking about when I was a kid, and I wouldn't want to pass them because I was bullied in school, so I wouldn't want to walk past a bunch of kids laughing together, because I think they might look at me and will start laughing at my hair, or and I'm a grown man, so that, yes, of course, but it's also the fact that I, as you rightfully said, it hadn't really moved on, it was like I was going back to the past, now I'd already, gone through a lot in Paris, so, and finally I can afford to live somewhere that was, not a penthouse, but, in a nicer and a safer and what's called a peaceful place. So yeah, it was both. It wasn't just, and also it's funny because people do change, and I'm talking about your neighbourhoods. So going back there, there were less English people there, and there was more, I think, Turkish people, and it's different. I mean, Enfield particularly is full of English, Greek people. Enfield is the borough of Edmonton, and we were the few black people who lived there that time, and then now it's changed, you know. I hope it's for better in the long run, because when a lot of working class, you know, a lot of working class, and even what's people under working class, what's it called? I don't even know.
Kind of, well, I mean, technically, I guess you're moving into
so gypsies.
Yeah.
There's gypsies, and you know, yeah, I saw them living there, and you know, when there's that, I've been reading Tom Sowell, who's an economist. He says that you know, poverty does not create crime. But I do beg to differ, because living there for that particular few months, I thought to myself, well, I could get robbed in an instant. You know, I could. I'm sure the people are peaceful in the daytime, but nighttime is not. It's not a safe place. That's why there's not a lot of people outside when it's nighttime. So, yeah, but I hope they find what they're looking for.
You mentioned at the top of just talking about that, then you said when the music thing is done, which infers that you don't imagine that you'll do music forever. Is that right? Do you think that way?
Yeah, of course. I won't. I'll be doing music. Of course, I'll be playing music forever. But I don't see myself doing a lot of albums and, you know, 50 albums and all that. No, that's not me.
You won't be Paul McCartney still going at 70 odd.
Well, I mean, after a certain time, what do you talk about? I don't see how many love songs can you write? Well, I've written none. That's because I'm keeping it all for my love. But I just don't like repeating myself, you know, and maybe I'll go to university or go to conservatoire or something and study being a composer, or what's it called? What's that thing called?
Like
director?
Yeah, like an orchestra leader?
Oh, cool. Yeah, I've forgotten, yeah, maestro or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, or, you know, I want to try and help my communities that touch me, touch me. So there's a community in France, there's a community in England, Edmonton, community in Italy, near Tuscany.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes me go. That's what makes me breathe, and that's what makes me think that I'm worth it, or my life is of vital importance to humanity. So that music is. I mean, I love music, but I don't think that's what I'll be doing for. You know, touring is. It's not an easy thing. It's not, and there are many ways to make a living. It's just that most of the time, we artists, we compare ourselves to each other because others are greedier than others. So when you're making some money, you compare your money to someone who's greedy, and then you think that you're making none. But there's enough to survive, you know. So I'll be fine.
So if you were to go back somewhere like Edmonton, how do you imagine, what kind of capacity would you imagine that, in the sense that you would want to be part of like a community youth program, like about trying to help, like lift people out of some of the difficulties that you've just talked about? How do you mean you'd want to go and kind of affect those communities in some way, work with them perhaps?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'm, you know, we just talked about how I'm going to stop doing music, and you know, but you know, I'm maturing, and since I'm maturing, I'm starting to understand that it's not just for me, you know, it's I'm here because of other people, and so with music, for example, I would like to do a festival in these places, you know, and I'm not talking about playing the most obvious music. No, I would want to either pick out guys from that same community and also bring in people I love. That's if they want to do it, of course. But that's one of the things I want to do. Because music, of course, brings people together. But also, I tried talking to the council a couple of months ago, and they're all just poor sods, aren't they? I mean, it is. I tried to get them pianos, as I had said with my Mercury money. But after talking to the council, whatever his name, the guy, the mayor, was it? No,
the council leader, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Council leader or the MP or whatever it is. They just put me off, So I just need to find a way of just doing it. I still have the money. It's 20 quid, 20k, 25k, sorry. And I said, as I said to you, that I am a man of my words. And I've been always dreaming about that. I dreamt about it for years. So, but they want to get involved, these guys, for their own benefits. He said something like, "Let's do it so that this mayor or this man will set a legacy or something." Or said, "Hey, I don't care about what you want to set for yourself. What I want to do is to help, is to give to the place where I am from." And so he put me off a little bit, but it would still go on. I just haven't had the time. That's all. But I'd rather just, because they've got to grant me permission to put a piano in the library, because the library is a public library. See, so these things are hard when you're not on the same side with the powers of the community. But I'll find a way, and that will be the starting point. Giving pianos, putting pianos in schools and in libraries, will set it off, and eventually, of course, I want to tackle things like, not tackle, but bring into the light things, especially the arts, because the arts is poor. It's really poor. It's very poor compared to French arts and culture. Personally, I think it's poor. There's no appreciation for contemporary art. There's no appreciation for young people expressing themselves in a different way. People get laughed at, Young people get laughed at for doing things differently, expressing themselves differently in England. And it's terrible. And I don't personally, with investment given and put into arts, it's mostly put into arts of Picasso's and, and it's a waste of money, because that painting is £50 million. So it's making its money anyway, That's what I'm really, really upset about concerning the arts in the United Kingdom. I wouldn't say United Kingdom because I haven't been everywhere in the United Kingdom, but for me, it's put me off London a little bit, Who cares about a garden bridge, or who cares? I mean, there's going back into community, I'm yet to see any kid coming out of the block or whatever painting a Renaissance painting, or or even a contemporary as it doesn't get as contemporary as Jean-Michel Basquiat's paintings. It's terrible. It's really terrible. And then for me personally, I don't really care about education and books and so on. Eventually you grow up and you learn. Of course, it's two types of education, but and when you learn, you start reading books. You start reading what's called books that you like, and you start discovering books, and so on and so forth. But the arts, you know, is an expression that we all have, you know, and we express it through, you know, different mediums, and it's yeah. Sorry, I sound like I'm complaining.
I think it's interesting because I've just come back from France, and I think that you're right. You can walk around a small village and there'll be an encouragement around putting on small art exhibitions, or just infrastructure of the ways of sort of doing those things. And it's not necessarily about education in the UK, because the school curriculum when it came to music, when I remember it, wasn't the kind of thing that would encourage somebody to go into music. But perhaps it's just what you're talking about, or my kind of understanding what you're talking about, is the ability to be able to, for people to explore their kind of creative inquisitiveness at an early age, to be able to, if that piano is in the library, in that public space, in that classroom, in that corridor, or wherever it is, to just try and see if that's something.
Exactly, because I had to have the privilege, and I'm lucky to have the privilege that I had a piano in my house. You know, this is a lot of kids don't have that. They don't. The music you listen to, I don't know. You know, if you don't play piano or an instrument, you don't listen to how the instrument is played. You never look for, you know, you never search for, you know. It's a bit like, you know, if you never fall in love and never be with a woman, you never know how it is to be with a woman, or how it is to be with a lover, or whatever. So. You know, because they don't have that instrument, when they listen to music, they just listen to any, you know, they just, you know, they have no clue. You've got to give, you have to give a child an option. You have to, you know, let them know what things that are there, so that they'll do things that are not, at least. But it's, you know, again, going back to, you know, if I hadn't left to France, I wouldn't have known that what's called exposure is vital, and if you're going to expose things that are nonsense to kids, at least expose things that are always meaningful, so that there's a balance. Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
You mentioned that the night that you won the Mercury Prize, I was there in the room. You said that you were going to use the money for that purpose, and that you haven't actually had the opportunity to do that, and it's still sat in a bank account somewhere. Apart from that we've just discussed, what are your reflections on that night? Do you think about it often?
I've actually broken my Mercury Prize. I've broken it, fell.
Oh no.
So the top has come off. Yeah, the ball. It's but it makes it quite special, because it looks like different from all the other Mercury Prizes, so it's a special thing.
Did it fall off the mantelpiece?
It did, yes. Because we're moving. It was a great night. It was one that I never thought possible. But I thought that even if I win, it won't be just for me. I made my mind that whatever happened that day, it will be for the purpose of music and people coming together and celebrating their expressions. So I was very, very moved through the whole thing, the whole program, because it goes all the way to even the person that made the Mercury Prize, the award, you know, and imagine the time they took, and it's all arts, and you know, and obviously Lauren Laverne, beautiful Lauren Laverne, and but by the way, I started having clues when I realised that Lauren wasn't talking about me too much. She never mentioned my name.
Okay.
Talking about everybody else. I was like, oh, all right, okay, well, maybe she'll talk about me in the bigger occasion. And then she asked me to play one of my songs. When I went on stage and I played, she didn't say anything about it. I went and sat down. Maybe I'm just
Looking back, you can see the signals.
And also, I was sitting right at the very edge of the seat, which at the back of all the judges, including you, as I suppose.
Yes, that's right.
Yes. And and the camera was right in front of me. So I didn't recognize all of this until I came back. I went back home after some months. Then I thought about it again, and then but I was blown away, but I was only chuffed, and I was good happy for what had happened, but I only thought about it after some few months about those little clues. Having said that, however, it was a very emotional night. A week before that, obviously, the Paris terrorist attack. I was torn, and I needed some sort of hope. I needed some sort of of course I am stronger, but music needed my music. I think it just needed that sort of. I feel that it was meant to be, and so when I won it, I just felt that it was appropriate that I brought everyone on the stage to somehow stand in front of death and go, well, we won, or trauma or fear, and say that whatever happens now, know that we'll always win. So it was a very, very this is a time I'll never forget. It's the Mercury Prize is smaller than the occasion, because you can never bring it back. The prize is here, but that moment made by the program and that the occasion, it's a bigger award. It's much of a bigger award for me. For me, the award was standing on stage with those people, those artists, Lola Laverne, looking out television, or thinking you can't really see a lot of people, but apparently there's a lot of people watching.
It was a really meaningful moment, because I don't think that's been done in Mercury history before, with an artist who's won has basically invited the other nominees, the 11 other nominees, I think, up onto the stage to effectively kind of receive the prize along with you to celebrate that moment. And you're right, in the context of what happened the week before in Paris, it did feel like a very emotional occasion. Clearly what happened in Paris was still a very painful thing, still is. When was the first time after winning the award that you returned to Paris and kind of felt the atmosphere in the city? And what was that like? I mean, I should probably explain as well that obviously you were born in London, but you spent 3 years or so in Paris. More than that. And then you spent time in New York recently, but Paris is still a city that I assume means a great deal to you. So, that experience of going back to Paris after winning the prize to kind of witness how that city was in the aftermath. How was that experience?
Well, funny you just asked me that question. It's just as if you knew what I was about to say next. And that was that before winning the Mercury's, the week before that, I was in Paris. I was living in a brothel. But a very, very, it was not a brothel, but it's a hostel. I chose to live there. It's a hostel, and every night there's someone screaming or having sex. And the room was about just a little bit bigger than this room we're in.
I should say that, yeah, it's more of what, kind of 6 meters by 6 meters, something like that.
And I was you know, I had my computer and I was composing my keyboard, my little keyboard. And I came out to England for the occasion. I didn't think I'd win, of course. I won it. The next day I went back to the room. In the room there's a little, what's it called, a wardrobe, like a wall, you know, those small things you can put like glass or whatever in there.
Oh, like a sort of sideboard type thing.
Yeah, on a wall. I took the prize and I just put it right there. I laid on my bed and looked out through the window, and I just thought to myself, this is life, you know? This is life, you know? You can't force it. You know, it just happens, you know? And of course I'm fortunate, but these are the things that they make me not only appreciate life, but also I think they make me more humble. After winning the Mercury Prize, I went back to Paris and laid down and just appreciated life even more. And at that time I didn't have a house that time. You know, I was wondering, you know, and you know, personally I like doing that. You know, I like staying in cheap hostels, and because you get to meet nice people, you get to meet foreigners, you get to meet, you know, different people, you know, who are also coming to stroll, and that's what life means to me, you know, meeting people, and even if you don't talk to them, you see them, you know, and you observe them. That's talking to them too. That's a way of expression, I think, of an expression. Yeah.
So you spent time over the years, obviously London, Paris that we just talked about. 2016 you went to New York and had some time there. How long were you in New York for?
I was in New York about a year and a bit. But I was going backwards and forwards. I was travelling mostly around America. This is because I was touring. I was touring in Europe. I got tired of Europe. Touring my album, which obviously it came out 2015, but I'd performed it for almost 3 years before, you know. So I was living there, going around, you know. Eventually I landed in New York, and that was the last show, so decided to just stay there and write.
What were your impressions when you arrived in New York, and what were your impressions when you left New York? Feel different?
Well, it's certainly shorter to leave New York to London than it is to going to New York. It's shorter. So that's a good thing, because I hate flights.
You're not a good flyer?
Well, these days I'm pretending not to, but I am. I hate it. Yeah, but okay. For me, New York is like Paris, but a contemporary one, where things are built to the most ginormous, or what's it called, form, just for the sake of impression. I lived at a place called Lafayette House, which is off Bowery, and Greenwich Village is like, 7 minutes from Greenwich Village. So it's, and you know, the place I lived was also, you know, the person who, luckily again, fortunately I met some really nice people who happened to be artists. One of them was the girlfriend of Jean-Michel Basquiat, and her brother owned the place I was living. So, you know, it wasn't, I still wasn't really, I don't know how to say it, but it wasn't like I'd gone to Mars, you know? Every day was talk about arts, and I saw my friend Julian as well, who is a great artist for me. He lives at Greenwich Village. But the people, I would say the American people, if we're talking about America, obviously people say that it depends on where you go. I beg to differ. I think Americans are the same. For me, they talk differently, of course, different places, but I think they've got the same heart. They're really nice people. And I think they got offended when they're told that they're not nice people. I suppose like everybody. I personally, I didn't see any fault. I didn't encounter any problems with anyone. Nothing happened that would make me think that Americans are what we project them, you know, to be. In Europe, it's in Europe we think Americans are ignorant, and half of them don't even have a passport, which might be true because America's a beautiful place. Some people wouldn't want to go anywhere else. But for me, you know, of course, no one should tolerate anyone killing somebody, and you know, that's a different issue. You know, that's I'm just talking from my story, my experiences. I find them really very funny, very peaceful human beings. I'd say they love nature. They really love nature. I totally appreciate my time there. It was one that was very sad one, but it also made me learn a lot. And I got my visa. I've been telling a lot of people about this. My visa is an O1 visa, but it's the reason why you're in America. So you're in America because you've got an ability. That's the reason why you're in America. You're not in America because they love you. Yeah. You're there because you've got an ability, and that you're going to make them some money. And afterwards, you're going to was off. You're going to go back to your poor home somewhere around the world, and not to ever return. And if you're going to return, you must also prove that you're going to make them a lot of money. You're going to get them you're going to show them your ability. So it's called an Alien of Extraordinary Ability visa, and that's what I received, and it made me laugh and angry, sad. And I thought that I'd just take the positives, you know, and just write something. That's what really triggered the whole thing, really, triggered the second album. So, going to America, I certainly felt like an alien, but in a good way, you know. No one recognized me, or they only recognized me because of my hair. But it was a nice experience.
Midnight Chats is a loud and quiet podcast. Production by Emma Snook. Music courtesy of Gold Panda. Search Midnight Chats on iTunes for more episodes and to subscribe. For more information, visit loudandquiet.com.